Hello everyone, this is Laura Flagg, Program Assistant at the Syracuse University Environmental Finance Center. On behalf of the Environmental Finance Center Network, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar entitled Financial Tools and Resources for Small Water Systems. I will be providing some technical support for today's session. Please take a moment to observe your GoToWebinar control panel. Most of the functions are self-explanatory, but I'd like to draw your attention to the question section on your control panel. During today's session, you will all be kept on mute to ensure audio quality and minimize background noise. Should you have a question, please type it into the GoToWebinar question dialog box at any time. We will be holding all questions until the end of today's presentation to ensure that we end on time. We have over 200 registrants for today's webinar. We will try to get to as many questions as we can. Any questions that we can't get to today, we will follow up with you individually via email. Today's presenter has consented to share his presentation slides with you, and we will make these slides available as well as a video recording following the webinar on the EFCN website. And this website is efcnetwork.org. Please allow 1 week for the processing and posting of these materials. Here with me today, I have two of my EFCN colleagues from the EFC at University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We have Lexi K. Herndon.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Lexi. And we also have Glenn Barnes, who will be walking you through financial tools for the small water systems. So,
hello,
Lexi,
everybody.
Hello, Glenn. And Lexi, at this point, I will turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you, Laura. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today on our webinar presenting financial tools and resources for small water systems. We have a bunch of you joining us today from all across the country, and we're so excited to have you with us. And I just want to give you a little bit of background on our project today before we jump in. Glenn and I, as Laura mentioned, are part of the EFC at UNC-Chapel Hill. And we are also part of the Environmental Finance Center Network, which is a network of university-based environmental finance centers around the country. And we work to create solutions to the difficult how-to-pay issues of environmental protection and improvement. And the project that we are working through today is the Smart Management for Small Water Systems program, which is funded by a cooperative agreement with EPA, and it allows us to work with small water systems in every state, territory, and the Navajo Nation. And today we're going to go through a lot of the resources and tools that we've developed for you through this project. We have many areas of expertise, including asset management, energy management, financial management, and many others that you see listed here. And fortunately, today we have the time to go through a lot of the resources that we've developed in these areas that are free to you to use. And we have a couple of polling questions before we get started so we can learn a little bit more about you. So Laura, could you please launch our first polling question? Okay, so now we would just like you to tell us what kind of water utility you represent. Are you a for-profit, municipality, sanitary district, other special district, or not from a water utility? We'll just give you a few seconds to respond here on your screen.
All right, it looks like we still have a couple people voting, so I'll give them a couple more seconds. All right.
Okay, it looks like about half of you are actually not with water utilities, but hopefully the tools and resources that we present here today will help you in your work with water systems if that's what you're doing. And for the rest of you who are from water utilities, these tools are really designed for you to use, and so we hope you'll find them helpful. And we have one more polling question.
Okay.
So what size water system does your utility operate by number of people served? Is it less than 10,000, more than 10,000, or not a system? And this is important to us as we work with small systems because EPA defines a small water system as those that serve less than 10,000 people.
All right, I'm going to just give a couple more seconds. All right.
Great. It looks like we have a lot of small systems here with us. Welcome. We're glad you're here. And to those of you who are not small systems, these tools are probably going to be very useful for you as well. And thanks everybody for participating in our polls. So as I've been mentioning several times today, our objectives are just to share the tools and resources that we have developed through our work with you. We've really tried to design these tools to meet the needs of small water systems and help them with common issues and challenges that we've seen in our work with you. And we're also going to kind of demonstrate some of our most popular and helpful tools. So what we offer through the Smart Management for Small Water Systems project, we have training, advising, applied research, and tool development. And this comes through many different formats and methods. So trainings, we have in-person workshops, we have these webinars that you are attending today, and we have e-learning modules. We also have a blog that offers a lot of quick reading, learning that you can do. Our advising is often one-on-one advising with systems who need individual help, but we do also do small group advising as needed. We do applied research looking at problems and issues and challenges and trends in the industry and share what we learn with you. And then, of course, tool development, which you will see Glenn Barnes is going to demonstrate several tools that we've developed to help you. And we've really, as I've mentioned, we've come across some very common themes in our work with small water systems, and we've kind of tried to organize our tools and resources around those themes. So often we hear from systems that you're having problems with insufficient revenue to cover your costs, or maybe you have aging infrastructure and want to be sure you get the longest useful life. Maybe you have problems with water loss or energy management. So we have tools and resources to help you with all of these issues, and we're going to present 2 or 3 of those today and then show you where you might find more of these resources. And I think at this point I'm going to turn it over to Glenn Barnes, who's going to dig into these tools.
All right, thank you, Lexi. We have dozens of tools on our website. We'll only have an opportunity to show you a handful of them, and in many cases we have actually had full-length 1-hour webinars on these tools. We did one just a couple weeks ago on a tool that was a financial checkup for systems that I'll actually show you in a few minutes. So really today what I wanted to do is to focus in on an example. How would you as a small system potentially use the tools that we have available to you and the resources? And so we would like to start with just a scenario that for some of you may sound very familiar. And I'll say I had meetings with 2 water systems in the last week, and both of them were facing something similar to this. So we thought maybe we'd start with this as an example. So let's say that you are new to a water system. This is you. You're excited about helping to provide safe drinking water to your community. And I think we meet a lot of people through our trainings and one-on-one assistance who are relatively new to, if they're a municipal system, for example, they may be a new board member, a new staff member, and they're very excited about the prospect of running a water system. But the more you look at the system, the more confused you become. Something seems off. as you look at the finance and management and the performance of the system. It could be that the infrastructure is not in great shape. Maybe it hasn't been maintained properly in a number of years. So you're starting to be a little bit worried here. And in fact, the more you look at it, you're not entirely clear what all the infrastructure is, where it is, how much longer it's going to last, what's really important in the system, what's not important in the system, and you're having a hard time getting answers from people because there aren't very good, adequate records of what's in the water system. And on top of this, there doesn't really seem to be any money to fix things anyway. So regardless of whatever problems we might be able to find with the water system, do we even have the money to fix it? The rates haven't been changed in a number of years. And so now you're starting to get really, really nervous. And so you start to wonder, is there anything that can improve the finance and management of the system? Where can I possibly start with this? And friends, that's where the Environmental Finance Center and our tools come into play, is that we're here to help, and we have a lot of tools to help you. And you'll have an opportunity to either download these tools directly from our website. As Lexi mentioned, all of them are free, or in some cases to access off of the internet, but again, all free. Or if you would like, we'll also mention towards the end the opportunity of asking us to provide some help, direct assistance to your water system on how to use these tools and to walk you through how to use them. And that's one of the very common types of assistance that we provide around the country. So we're here to help. We have the tools to help you. And so where do we start? Well, we're going to actually start on the EFC Network website. So as was mentioned at the top of the broadcast, this is where you would be going to look up the today's webinar recording and the slides from today, etc. This website has really become the central hub of all of the information that we have related to our work with small drinking water systems, including the upcoming education events, the ability for one-on-one help, all the various types of tools and resources and other things. And we're going to take some time to walk you through all of them, but in particular, where I want to really start with is our resource library, which is something that we built within the past year to help you organize these particular issues that come up. So at this point, I'm actually going to exit out of the PowerPoint, and we're going to go to the website and start to show you some of the things that are available for you for help. So when you come to our website, again, efcnetwork.org, where you're going to want to look first is this Resources tab located on the toolbar at the top here, and then go to the very first option there, which says Resource Library. And this particular library is organized. There's a couple different things you can do here. You can view all the tools in one list. You can view all the publications in one list, view all the relevant blog posts in one list. But what we've tried to do here is to actually organize these tools around some of the common problems that we hear systems tell us that they're facing. So those problems could include, for example, we treat more water than we sell. We have insufficient revenue to cover our costs. We have aging infrastructure, and we want to get the longest useful life out of it. How can we use less energy but maintain our current level of service? Where can we find outside funding to support our water system? And how can we work with other water systems to lower costs? Now, what I'd like to ask you to do as I start to demonstrate some of the tools that we have is we could use your help in understanding if there are additional questions that often come up around finance and management that you would like us to put into this resource library. So my favor to all of you is if you could actually use the chat box at some time during the presentation today, if you have a thought on a category of that your system needs help with, or a particular problem or challenge, please just go ahead and type us a note in the chat box that says, one challenge we often face is this, and that will help us organize this for the future. All right, but think about the scenario that we offered today, which is that we have a person who has essentially come to a water system that has not been maintained properly through the years. This is a problem that I basically put in the category of you've inherited somebody else's mess, and you need to fix what may have been 10, 20 years of mismanagement at the system that you're at now, and you're a good-hearted person and hardworking and smart and want to do this, but you're in the hole a little bit, and you have to dig yourself out. And so what I want to start with is this question of the aging infrastructure that came up in our little scenario. So I forget at what level of distress our emoticon was at that point, but certainly, not even necessarily knowing where all of the assets are or what kind of condition they're in. You may have a vague sense of something called asset management that would be a good help for that. And so within our resource library, this middle, one of these middle boxes here that says we have aging infrastructure and want to get the longest useful life, this is one of the things that you would want to check on. And let me just walk you through a little bit of what you'll see here. So there is a section on tools at first that pulls in relevant tools. There's a section on publications underneath that pulls in relevant publications. And then in this case, we don't yet have any blog posts, but as we do, they'll get added here as well. And these are tools that the environmental finance centers have developed, one of the 10 centers from around the country. Or these could be tools that have been developed by EPA or other third parties that we link to. But again, all of these tools are freely available. And so if I were faced with this particular question of wanting to understand what it is that we have in the system and where we want to go from there, I would want to look at something along the lines of asset management to help me understand what are the most critical pieces of infrastructure to pay for. And so one of the tools that we have here is an asset management IQ. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up for you on the screen. So this is an online assessment that you can take that will show you your understanding of asset management. And if you've never done asset management before, if this is a new term for you or something that you've maybe heard of or taken a class on but haven't done a lot with, this is really the place where you want to get started. So, the first question is asset management terminology understood throughout the organization? So you have a choice here. You could say no one within the organization understands the terminology nor has any knowledge of asset management, for which you get 0 points. One person within the organization understands it, you get 1 point. Less than half the organization's personnel understand it, more than half, all. And throughout the organization, this is a common thing. And depending on what you select here, your score will change. So if you're at no one, you get 0 points. If you say less than 50%, you get 2 points. If you say all the organization, you get 4 points. And there are a series of questions on here. As you can see, I'll scroll down here a little bit. And obviously, it's difficult through the webinar for you to really see this clearly just because of the size of the text. But some of the questions, I'll just read them out to you. Does the organization have a clearly defined asset management plan? Is asset management fully embraced by the elected officials or governing body? Does the organization have a strategy for communicating the asset management strategy throughout the organization? Does the organization have an overarching goal or mission statement for asset management? What you would do is you would answer, each of these questions in whatever way is appropriate for your water system. And then at the bottom here, you'll get a score for this section and then a cumulative score. And then you go on to the next section, and so on and so on. And at the very end of the process, after you've answered questions on general asset management, current state of the assets, level of service, assets critical to sustain performance, life cycle costing, and financing, you'll get a cumulative score. And you can download these results into PDF, and that will be a starting point for you of what is your overall score. And this is very much like being back in school. You know, this is going to give you a grade on a scale of 1 to 100 of how aware you are of the concepts of asset management. And this is a great place to start because it will help you focus in on the core elements of asset management, which we're asking about here. So once you have done this scoring, then you might say, okay, well, what are these core elements? They're kind of seen here in the scoring criteria: the current state of the assets, the level of service, assets critical to sustain performance, life cycle costing, and financing. Well, back in the resource tab, we have some additional publications here, reference guides that I've pulled up for you that will explain these core components in a little more detail. So this is a one-page document. It's a PDF document that you can print out and share with your colleagues or with your board that talks about asset management and these components of what are the assets, the service level, the criticality, life cycle cost, and funding, with a few questions that will help you understand what it is that you're looking at. So what do your customers want for level of service? What are they willing to pay? What are you able to provide? How will you measure your performance, and so on? And then if you say, okay, well, this is a nice introduction, I want to get in a little more detail, we have an additional resource, which is a 5-page document that will get into the core components of asset management in a little more detail. So here you'll see a paragraph, I'll highlight here, or a page on each of the core elements of asset management in a little bit more detail. And then there's an example, and at the very end here we also have some links to critical tools. There's a spreadsheet for you to do an inventory. It's literally just a plain old Excel spreadsheet. You can manipulate it all you want to, but it's a place to start. We've done a series of webinars on the 5 core elements. The recordings are all linked from here. And then some of the rate setting resources that we have as well available for you. If you want to go in even more depth from this, we have an asset management manual that we put together in cooperation with the state of Kansas many years ago. This is completely available online. And so you would be able to go through this particular process. There are some acknowledgments here, getting into the purpose and use of the guide, and so on. There's a whole table of contents here where you can look at the various parts of asset management that we talked about in much greater detail. And this particular document here, you know, will not only give you descriptions, little write-ups, but it will give you links to videos of actual water systems that are doing asset management, and they'll talk about how they do these things. And then there are tools that are embedded within this document as well. Now, we will send out to all of you at the end of the webinar a resource guide that shows links to all of these key tools in addition to just coming to our website. This particular tool, you do need a username and password, and we have provided that on the guidance document. So just use the password and username provided, and you can get in and use this tool to your heart's content. And again, this was something that we developed in conjunction with the state of Kansas, and we're very grateful for them to be willing to let it be used as a broad and general tool. So this may be a place where you would get into asset management and you would start to root around and understand better what are the critical pieces of infrastructure that we have in our system, how close are they to wearing out, and when are we going to need to replace them? Because obviously not every piece of infrastructure is equal when it comes to your system. If your overhead storage tank is wearing out, the last time they painted it, they were starting to see daylight through it, the legs are starting to rust out, it's going to collapse on the football field in the middle of a game Friday night, that's a very big problem compared to, say, the meter at Mrs. Jones's house stopped working this month. So we got to be smart about how we spend limited resources. And obviously this is something where you may want to contract with an engineer to help you do this or to help you think through it. But these tools are available for you to essentially teach yourself how to do asset management and take advantage of the spreadsheet. So that way at the end of the day you come out with a list of projects that need to be done and need to be done in the short term. All right, so once you've done that, you might say, okay, we've solved one or addressed one of these issues. Now the question is, do we have the money to pay for everything? And that's where we perhaps come into this to another area here is what does your system need help with? We have insufficient revenue to cover our costs. And so I think when you get into this particular option, we have a number of tools here that are available to you. The one that I actually want to start with is the financial health checkup for water utilities. My colleague Shadi Eskap did a great webinar on this about 2 weeks ago and demonstrated this tool in great detail. And we've also done some other webinars just on how to calculate key financial indicators. But before you can even start to think about paying for new assets, we would want you to think about, are the revenues of our system currently sufficient to cover our costs? You know, maybe the way the business has been run for the last 20 years before you got there, that the system is actually currently losing money. And one of the ways that we can do this is that we can use your financial statements from your water system, have you enter that information into this tool, and then it will show you whether or not your water system is in good or bad financial shape. And so if you're saying, geez, Glenn, I'm not sure I know what a key financial indicator is. Well, you're not, because under our blog posts here, we've actually done a whole series on key financial indicators. So for example, you may want to pull one up about operating ratio, which I just brought up on the screen here. And this is a blog that we wrote a few months ago, that goes into the question of, do you have enough money coming in through your revenues to pay for the expenses, the day-to-day expenses of your water system? So you can go ahead and read that blog post to give you a little bit more information, and then again return to the tool and start to enter in information. So I'm going to just zoom in here a little bit, make it easier for y'all to see what you would do here, but you would basically take your financial statements for your utility, and you can do this over a series of years. We have an example system here where you would put in information like the total operating revenue, total operating expenses, depreciation, debt payments, your current assets, etc., into this tool, and this will allow you to calculate some of these key financial indicators. And if you're not exactly sure where to find this information on the tools, well, the blog posts help a bit with that, but then we also have these example financial statements that are included in the tool, and that they show you where the numbers will likely be on your financial statements and where to pull them out. So all of this is embedded right in the tool. Now, you also want to go through on each of these and say, all right, what is our goal? You know, what is the goal for operating ratio, including depreciation? Obviously, we would like to see that be at least 1, but you may say, you know, we want to be a little more ambitious than that. We want it to be 1.2. That's our goal. You know, operating ratio not including depreciation. Did you just cover your O&M costs? You might say, well, I really want that to be maybe 1.4. And if you notice here, this little table at the top is adjusting to show you how you've met those ratios. And then what you can do is you can actually go in and see these 5-year graphs over time. So you have put in here, this is the level that you want to reach of 1.2. And it's going to show you over the course of 5 years, well, at the start you were actually right at 1.2, but you've been on a downward trend. You know, your operating ratio, not including depreciation, also on a downward trend. Your debt service coverage ratio on a downward trend. Generally, friends, I think if these 3 numbers are going down, it's a good indication that your costs have gone up and your rates have not kept up, and that you may need to raise your rates. And so with this tool, before you start to dive in on the asset management resources, we now have a sense of whether or not we need to change the rates that we have before we start to get into the capital planning. So let's say, okay, you realize we need to go a little bit up on the rates in order to meet these goals, and then from there, now we have to say, well, what's going to be the impact of the capital planning? So we got another tool that we'll bring up here. And this is a tool that shows the some statistics about your utility. So you would enter in your information here, whether it's water and sewer, the current fiscal year, some information about your rates, how many customers you have, change in the customer base over time, what kind of revenue you're expecting, what kind of debt service you already have on the books, if you have any. And then from here, you would go to this tab. I'll zoom in again a little bit for you so you can see what's going on here. This is where you would list the projects that you would want to do perhaps over the next 20 years. So you list the projects. This again would come from that asset management plan you put together. When you want to start them, there's a little drop down here. How long the expenditure or construction period would be. The construction cost, so how much would you expect the project to cost in the year you want to start, or you could put it in today's dollars if you go out and get a quote today, but this is something you'll do in 5 years, and you can put a little inflationary factor in there. So it'll calculate then what's the cost at the start of the project. And then you say, okay, well, how many grants did we get? So then what's the net project cost? Are we going to do this out of capital reserves or debt financing? And so if it's capital reserves, the tool will just give you the option of what's the first year to allocate money. And then if it's debt financing, it'll say, all right, what's the term of the debt? How many years? What's the interest rate? And in both of these cases, it will tell you then, it'll give you the option of saying, well, there's going to be additional O&M costs or perhaps lowered O&M costs because we're doing this. Once you put all of this information in, now you start to get into the real meat of the tool here. And this is what looks like kind of a scary looking spreadsheet, but there's something very helpful here, which is the approximate monthly charge for 5,000 gallons. So what this tool will do is it will say that if you're doing these capital projects, your costs will go up by a certain amount, and therefore your rates will need to change by a certain amount over time. So it will show you up here the 1-year increase and decrease in the rate, what that will be over time. So that way, you now know, okay, I know what our rates currently are. We know what we need to do to fix those. We know when the capital projects are coming in and what that will impact the rates over time. And then we have some nice visual displays of this information as well. This tool does a lot more than we really have time to kind of show you today. But it gives you some sense of how you could use this tool to start to think about rate changes. And that's something now you're going to want to go to the decision makers, the governing board of your utility, and say to them, hey, we're going to need to go in to borrow money to pay for this critical infrastructure, and it's going to impact the rates. And at this point, they may say, geez, can people afford to pay for this? Are they going to be able to afford the raise in rates? That's why we haven't raised the rates in 20 years. Well, not surprisingly, we have a tool that helps with that as well. So this is a tool that I'm bringing up on the screen now, which is to help you with affordability analysis of water service. So you would put in your community, which state you're from, whether this is water or wastewater or combined bill. What's the approximate monthly consumption in either gallons or cubic feet per month? And then you can enter in what the bill would be for that consumption point. So in this particular example here, I'll zoom in a bit for you, that we said this community uses 5,000 gallons a month. The water cost is $50.25. The wastewater cost is $3.20 a month, so it calculates the combined bill. And then you have an option just below this to put an alternative bill if you know that that's going to go up. You'd put in where the service area is from the census and what year you're showing. And what you would actually do here is go to the Fact Finder website on the census. We have a link to it right here. and some instructions of where to find information. And again, we have some good blog posts that'll describe to you all of this information. And we start to pull in some really key information about this particular community. So how many people within the community are unemployed? How many of them are not in the labor force at all? So in other words, unemployed are only people actively looking for jobs who don't have one. How many are not in the labor force? There's information on the census table about your household income. That is a percentage of households that are less than $10,000 a year, 10 to 15,000, 15 to 25, and so on. We put in the median household income, what percentage have Social Security, supplemental security income, cash public assistance, food stamps, and then the percentage of families living below the poverty line. And once you enter all of this information in, there's a nice assessment tab here that will show you that in this particular community, the median household income is about $75,000 a year. And so if you were to say the water and wastewater bill as a percent of median household income is under 1%, but then we also, as you noticed, we have these income buckets. And so it will show you in each income bucket the percentage of the population within that bucket and then the minimum amount that they're currently paying for water and wastewater service. And so while the median household is only paying 86/100ths%, the lowest income households are paying at least 6.4%. And there's a nice graph here that shows you the percentages. As you go upwards on this graph, it's showing a higher percentage spent on water and wastewater. As you go to the right, it's showing the income level going up, and then the size of these circles is the percentage of the population in each of these buckets. And while this is a relatively wealthy community, there are, in fact, a good number of people, probably about almost 20% of the population that have $25,000 or less in household income and are paying anywhere from 2.5% to 6.5% and up in their revenue. And so you may think, hey, you know, even though the median income can pay pretty well, this tool is showing me that the lower income households may need some help, and we've got some tools further to show you that. And then you can also come down here, take a look at some of these key socioeconomic indicators. And in this particular case, we could see not in the labor force, 46% is way above state and national averages. Social Security income also above state and national averages. And what this is telling us is that this is a community that has a lot of wealthy people who commute into Chicago. This is a Chicago area community. But there's also a lot of retirees who have probably lived in their houses since 1945, and they're on a fixed income, and as water and wastewater expenses go up, they're going to have a harder time of paying for that. So that is a very brief overview of the types of tools that we have available and the types of things that you can be looking at. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Lexi, who's going to be able to walk you through some of the other things that are available on the website. And then we'll have time for some of your questions. But again, if you have some thoughts about other problems you want to see us address here, please type them into the comment box, and that would be really helpful for us as kind of a good informal poll. So I'll turn it back over to Lexi.
Okay, thank you, Glenn, and thank you for showing us the resource library. So this is a great starting point. If you don't really know what you're looking for, but you know what your problem is, come to the resource library and explore what we have here for you. But we do have some other areas of our website that I wanted to show you before we let you go. So on our homepage, we've tried to make it very easy for you to get where you need to go. So the first thing that you'll notice is this big bubble saying if you need free help, click here to get it. And this is where you can request technical assistance from us. So this would be where you come if you're facing a problem and you just really don't know how to tackle it, or maybe you need help with the tools that you've seen here today or another tool that you found on our website. You can come to this request assistance form, It should only take you maybe 2 or 3 minutes to type in your information here. We just need a little bit of information about the problems that you're facing and what you need from us, and then we'll get in contact with you from there and get started in helping you. And we do have funding to help small water systems through this project, and we can do about 20 hours of assistance with you. So this is a great opportunity that we hope that you'll take advantage of. We also, as you know, have many training opportunities. So if you're on our homepage, you can scroll down and click this box to find a training near you. You'll see a map that shows where our scheduled trainings are. And if you click on any of these flags, you can go directly to the workshop description. You can also scroll down. We often have webinars as like this one today. So you'll see our webinar offerings there as they get scheduled. And you can just, if you're interested in attending a training, you'll just be able to register on our website very easily, and we'll get you signed up to come. Our publications box here, this will take you right to the resource library area that we looked at earlier. And maybe you have a couple hours or maybe 1 hour to really sit down and think about finance and management topics, but you're at your computer. And if that's the case, then we have these lovely e-learning modules. Right now we have one e-learning module on financial sustainability for small water systems, but we are developing more through the course of the project, so be sure to come back and check here. These e-learning modules were developed by our partner, AWWA, and are hosted on AWWA's website. So I am going to show you just briefly how you would get to those. You'd click on the link on our website that takes you directly to AWWA. And when this finishes loading, you'll see. But essentially, you're going to have to log into the AWWA website. If you have an account already, you can use that account information, or you can create a free account. You do not have to be a member to view the e-learning module. I would like to show you that, but it seems like it's stuck for now. So I have the module pulled up here just to show you kind of what it looks like. And there's different parts to this module that are going to help you learn about financial sustainability, including enterprise funds and their revenues, as well as an overview of what is needed to protect public health through safe drinking water. So this is a great resource. You can sit through it. It's like a presentation that you might get in a course. You can just do it on your own time, at your own pace, in the comfort of your office. So I will go back to our EFCN website here and show you just a few more things. So maybe you're interested in finding some outside funding for your system if you have improvements that need to be made. So we have collected this great resource here. It's a map of funding sources by state. So depending on where you live, you can click on any of these states and find an Excel spreadsheet that gives you contact information for the different funding agencies. So since we're in North Carolina, I'm going to click North Carolina, and you can see here we've got this nice table. The funder is here on the left. There's different programs within each funder, kind of some details on why you might use one program over another, and then of course the contact information for each program. And we do update these on an annual basis, so we are currently just starting our updates for this round of funding, and we'll continually be doing that. So be sure to come here and check those. And then Glenn has shown you through his portion, we do have blog posts, and we'll be writing blog posts about 2 times a month or so, just on different topics that we know are important to you as small water systems. So Glenn's series on key financial indicators is here. There are 4 or 5 key financial indicators that he's described. We also have just program update newsletters, some resources on energy management, And we're also starting to share success stories from our work with you. So we worked with Magdalena, New Mexico, and you can read about what we did with that small system here. And we also have an opportunity for you to subscribe to our blog. It's very easy. All you have to do is type your email in this box up here, and all that will do is put you on our distribution list for when we write a new blog post. We'll send you an email just to let you know. We won't send your email anywhere else. It'll just be a very infrequent email to let you know when there's new material. And I think our last resource that we'd like to share is our water and wastewater rates dashboard. So if you're interested in comparing how your water rates look compared to other systems in your state, you can come look at these dashboards. And we've done lots of webinars and trainings around the rates dashboard, so I won't get into how to use them today, but I did want you to know that you can find them here on our website. We have 12 states dashboards and are currently adding several more. So if you don't see your state listed here, it might be in the works, but you'll just need to click on your state and it will take you to our UNC website and show you our dashboard here. And this can be used, as I said, to compare your rates to other systems in your state, but also to look at some of the key financial benchmarks in some of the states and characteristics of your systems. So please feel free to use these dashboards as you need them. And I think that's about it, Glenn. So if anybody has questions, please type them in your question box for us now. Lisa, do you have any questions for us at this point?
Yes, we do have a couple questions. Lexi, would you like me to read them out, or can you see them on your end?
Sure, that would be great.
All right, so the first question we have is explain what you call a fixed income. Social Security only is a person on a salary who doesn't get paid based on sales on a fixed income.
Well, that's a great question. I think as I use the term fixed income, I was specifically meaning people whose income is not likely to change year in and year out. Now, for many people, as we went through the Great Recession, their income didn't change. I think we went, geez, I don't remember, Lexi, 5 years in our state without the state raising incomes for most state employees. So, you know, I mean, my sense of looking at people who are not in the workforce and people who are on Social Security is that that monthly payment will be the same 10 years from now that it is today. And so as water rates go up, that particular person's percentage of income to spend on water will go up as well, whereas theoretically, if you have somebody who, you know, is even a salaried employee and is actively working and maybe getting a cost of living adjustment or a raise on a regular basis, their percentage that they spend on water and wastewater may not change even as you go up because their income is going up as well. So with that particular tool, what we really wanted to get into are, you know, who are some subsets of your community who may have trouble paying their bills. And so people on a fixed income were one possible category, although there are plenty of retirees who are retired and living in very nice homes and doing very well for themselves. But then also people who are receiving other types of social service programs like cash public assistance or food stamps. And it's just meant to give you a guidance to see how your community compares to state and national averages.
Okay, great. So this next question, this person has noted that they completed the financial health checkup tool. However, when they presented it to the management, they were not concerned with the many details provided, but are more concerned with the question, just, are we okay? Can you help us present the tool report outcomes to the management?
I could use emoticons if that helps for it, but yeah, thank you for that question. I mean, I think that there's a whole other piece of things that we haven't talked about today, and perhaps this is something that we will add to the resource library as a category is, how do I convince decision makers and the public that there actually is a problem? And we did a webinar on this some months back of looking at some work that we had done around this subject. But I think for the particular person that asked that question, if you would like to request some one-on-one help, you could either just email us directly or respond to, go to our website, as Lexi showed you, to sign up for the help. One of the services that we could provide for our help would be, all right, let's look at that tool and let's think about how to talk about it and how to answer that kind of bottom line question, are we okay? And that's definitely a service that we can provide as part of our technical assistance.
Okay, great. Thanks, Glenn. So this next question is, are you suggesting that rates should be set to address affordability? And do you have any examples?
Oh, wow. I think we'd go another hour just on that one alone. So I think some of what we're getting at, and thank you for that question, because I think in the process of doing a webinar like this, where we're just quickly showing the tools, we don't necessarily get in the kind of detail that we need to on some of these things. Obviously, you have to take the affordability tool in concert with the key financial indicators tool. And I think that in some cases, we have seen water systems that their method of addressing affordability is, we'll set the rates so that way the lowest income people in the community can afford to pay them. And if you can do that and do so in a way that your operating ratio, your debt service coverage ratio, et cetera, look really good, more power to you. But in many cases, low rates come at the expense of the financial health of the system. And I think that in the trainings that we do on rate setting and fiscal planning, and as Lexi showed you that category, of trainings, that's something that may be coming to your state, we actually talk about this problem in some detail. And I really think, from my personal perspective, that the rates need to be what they need to be to pay for the proper finance and management of the system. The example that we pull up today and the emoticons, it's meant to be a little bit amusing, but I mean, I'm not lying when I said I worked with 2 systems in the last 7 days that both had this exact problem. And I really feel like, I think what we really teach is that we want to have rates that will cover the full cost of operations. And then at that point, we can use the affordability tool to help identify potential vulnerable populations and think about other ways to help them. That could be setting up a customer assistance program, and probably not shockingly, you'll learn that we have a tool that will help you do that. And another option may be something like what Atlanta has done. There are many, many options of systems that have done the customer assistance program, both small and large, but Atlanta, Georgia, which is obviously a very large system, has done something interesting, that their assistance program is actually, rather than helping an individual customer pay a bill, what they will say is, if you are having difficulty paying your bill, we will actually help you lower the cost of your bill by subsidizing the price of, say, a low-flow toilet or a low-flow shower head, or some other type of water-saving device within your house. Or we may help you with your pipes. And I think, we have a project right now on the kind of hard-to-reach customers that are often renters. And so, their water bill may be rolled in with their overall rent, and they don't own the fixtures, but there's a lot of outdated fixtures there, and trying to look at this kind of renter versus homeowner problem. And I think as we get more information on that, I think that'll be a subject of one of our future webinars. But I think, a program like Atlanta's of replacing fixtures, and then many other program examples that we've seen of actually doing a customer assistance program, are really good. But yes, thank you for the question, because I don't want to suggest that just if you see, oh, there are people in the community who will have difficulty paying the rates, we should lower our rates. That's not what we're saying at all. We want you to have a financially healthy utility.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for a couple more questions. The next one is, Do you have any accounting tools specifically regarding filing IRS tax returns?
Sadly, no. It's a good suggestion. I mean, it's something I think we can think about. I mean, obviously, some of the water systems we deal with as governmental entities don't have to do the tax returns per se, but we don't have any tools to help with that now, but that might be something we can look for the future.
All right, that looks like all of the questions that we have. So, good job.
Thanks everyone for those great questions. And I did want to mention, if you do have a quick question, you can't find something, or it's just a simple, straightforward question, here at the bottom of our website, we do have this Contact Us form. So that's a great place to get in touch with us quickly. Maybe you don't really want to commit to this full assistance process, but you have a quick question to ask. Please feel free to submit your question here, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
And then just one more thing I wanted to show everybody before we leave. I alluded to this earlier, but we have put together a PDF document of many of the tools that we've talked about today and we talk about in our workshops, which I've pulled up on the screen here. Now, obviously, you can go to the website, go to the resource library, as we said, and that'll be a great place to find things. But if you need something quickly, or if you want to be able to send something off really quickly, we'll send you a copy of this tool in PDF format. It has links to, on here, for example, recorded webinars and whiteboard videos, e-learning modules, our blog, and then asset management. You know, the question, and we have aging infrastructure and we want to get the longest useful life, here's that asset management IQ, and so on. And this goes through all of the different financial topics that we have and our very, very top tools that we have. And then there's little icons here to show you, is this a spreadsheet? Is it a tool? Is it a document that you can read? And so this, again, is just kind of a cheat sheet, and then the resource library as well, and we'll be happy to share this with you guys as well. Also, if you notice in the chat box, there is a quick survey to tell us how we did on the webinar, and we'll also be emailing that out. We really appreciate you taking a couple of minutes and give us feedback. It's very helpful as we plan future webinars. And I know we'll have another series of webinars coming up in March and April, and be on the lookout for the announcements for those, as well as for some trainings in your area. And I guess the bottom line of today's webinar is, if we can help you, there's a lot of different ways we can do that, but please don't hesitate to reach out and ask, and we're happy to put you in touch with the right tools, to do a one-on-one demonstration of how to do it, or to email you a video of how to do it. Whatever we can do for your small system to help, we're happy to do it, and we're here for you guys. So I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.